Alright everyone, it was brought to my attention that if you go on Google image search and you look up was Rosa Parks white, there's actually a picture of me. Now, backstory, I did a video years ago about the white Rosa Parks, which was there was a photographer who refused to give up her seat to a black person. I think she was documenting BLM at the time, and I was commenting on that, and people got outraged at the time, and it was really funny, and this is sort of how the paradigm... Watching that video, or some of the videos from like 5-6 years ago, and then looking at the modern political situation, it's honestly quite amusing and ironic at times. But then I thought to myself, like, actually, it is kind of true. Like, the people, the independent content creators of the world that are standing against, massive corporate censorship, excessive, enormous, draconian, authoritarian government, and also the grifting hypocrisy of craftivists like the leadership of BLM that's lining its pockets on human misery, violent terroristic thugs like Antifa. People that stand up against that, really, it is a little bit like the civil rights struggle, and it's not even like in reverse. I know people say reverse racism. There's no such thing. You're either racist or you're not. And it used to be that racism was you were directly insulting, antagonistic, even perhaps violent or hateful towards people based on the color of their skin or whatever. Now it means, like, I don't know, microaggressions. You don't like reparations. You think that statues should largely be left where they are. That's considered racism now, and that's as well interesting accelerationism by far leftists. But it is true. Think about the story of Rosa Parks. Here's a person who decided to stand up against authoritarianism, big state power, which in part was enabled by corporate power as well, private businesses and so forth, adopting segregationist tactics, not speaking out against it, partially because they were afraid that in their constituency it would be unpopular and they'd lose money. Some people decided to stand up against this. What happened to them? They were victimized for years and years and years. They were hosed down and had dogs sicked on them, and they were beaten down, and they were called, like, extreme. They were called pinkos at the time. Now, of course, they're called alt-right or extremist or whatever other buzz term the left is using these days. It changes from like month to month. You got to be hip to the lingo, because one of the things that you can do to disrupt is to just constantly change language until it has no meaning at all. It makes it harder to criticize a group. It's like when you label yourself Antifa, even if you have nothing really in common with a fight against fascism, because there's no fascism to fight for the most part, it makes it harder for people to wrap their heads around why someone would criticize you, because then they think you're supporting fascism. Or BLM, Black Lives Matter. Well, yeah, it's kind of a commonsensical statement. That being said, BLM doesn't stand for black lives. No, they stand for a handful of people that are making millions of bucks off of BLM is what it is, which is a for-profit corporate entity at this point. It's a grift. It's a total grift. Give us money to fight for justice. We'll bundle it through ActBlue, and ActBlue will mysteriously not dispense it for 60 days, and it'll go to a state DNC and then to Joe Biden. Why do you think his fundraising total has shot up all of a sudden? BLM is back in the news. They're raking in the big ones by the 8 and 9 figure totals probably at the moment each month. So yeah, I am a little bit like Rosa Parks. This is going to be a video that'll probably make certain people on the left irate, which means that they'll pretend it's cringe. They won't really have a rebuttal though. The overlap is quite similar. Only this time you have a lot more than one Rosa Parks. Now you have thousands and thousands of them. At a bare minimum, all of the independent content creators that oppose corporate censorship, racism, which is what BLM and Antifa and groups like that at the moment are showing. There's a commonality to all of the murals that they're defacing. They all depict white males. It doesn't matter whether they owned slaves. It doesn't matter how they were problematic or whatever. They just happen to be white every single time. It's a total coincidence if you ask these people. And you have corporations empowering their racism, literally siding with these people, pretending that this is about... It's sort of like in the civil rights era. It's sort of like when people who supported segregation are like, well, we're just trying to maintain traditional order. Well, the left is making fundamentally a similar argument right now. Well, we're just trying to fight police brutality and I don't know, have some reform. We want racial justice. It's a bunch of empty buzz terms, but their actions and their ideology stated on paper, two totally different things. Burning Wendy's is not going to create racial justice. Standing against burning Wendy's does not make one a racist. You see how they play little psyops, linguistic mind games with people. I hate to say it, it's not a case of the Dems are real racist or anything like that. It's more like you have this small cringe group of people with a visceral hate against elements of U.S. society. They've been indoctrinated by and large, and then you've got a bunch of opportunists along for the ride. And by the way, as soon as things come home to roost, I've spoken about this with moral panics as well, but it happens with this sort of thing. What happens, like with Occupy, at first, Occupy was a really, really great thing for the left. They'll say, oh, well, yeah, we stand with you. We want reform too. Bush ruined the economy. Just give us a little bit more state power and a whole bunch of money. Then Occupy decided to turn its ass facing the government and started rambling more about the bailouts and talking about drone strikes and stuff. They got dropped like a hot potato, and all of that Democratic support for Occupy suddenly waned really quickly. Right now, the left is just hoping that these people don't overstretch too much before November and crush their entire movement. They're hoping to prolong and moderate things, sort of like a nuclear reaction. They don't want it to go full fission mode and blow up, but they want to control it and drain its energy out. What they want is to make it look like the U.S. is falling apart, and we now we need to push, leftist policies, and they'll give them like breadcrumbs, and then they'll push neoliberalism. Basically, they'll just give Silicon Valley a bunch more power and money, and they'll line their own pockets like always, and nothing will get accomplished. And then after the election, you know what's going to happen, by the way? Little poop butt random BLM member who's not part of the upper echelon, little random leftist Bernie fan who's currently carrying a sign, you know what they're going to do to you? Biden and all of these others, if they win, they're going to drop you like trash. Within months of the election, you will be an afterthought. The money will dry up. The fervor will dry up. Your organizers mysteriously disappeared. Wow, I wonder how that happened. Dude, it's formulaic, and the fact that you can be taken in by it is pretty funny. Yeah, we are a little bit like Rosa Parks. We're standing against all of this nonsense. It's just like with the coronavirus thing. Well, this is the new norm. We need to change the way we do things. No, you don't. You're a paranoid, fear-mongering wreck. That's your fucking problem. No, I stand against that completely. I stand against the bigotry of the far left when they're attacking statues and murals for racial purposes, which they clearly are. It's not even political at this point. Union soldier, Confederate soldier, well, they're both basically the same. They fought in the Civil War, didn't they? These people don't even know what the Mason-Dixon line is. They don't even understand. These people want to push gun control, although they appear to be carrying weapons more often now in Chaz and places like that. They don't even realize, Gesundheit, that gun control in the U.S. in the 1870s first began with a decision that was basically Jim Crow's, an attempt to keep black people from arming themselves against the Klan and groups like that. These people are illiterate in the historical sense, and that's much to their detriment. BLM wouldn't exist if we had good civics courses in schools. Let's just put it that way. Antifa wouldn't exist if we taught political history in schools to any great degree, and actually taught it properly instead of a bunch of bullshit. One of the biggest things is they just lie by omission. You remember that time that Texas textbooks started leaving out elements of Thomas Jefferson because he was kind of a hip liberal in his era? And how much they rambled about how this is it's social engineering, they're fucking with the educational system. Thomas Jefferson is a good guy. Now they're toppling his statues. What does that tell you about the direction that society's moved in? That was only like 5-6 years ago, if I remember correctly. Pretty funny times. That's about all. Peace out.